All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike. And today we're going to be breaking down PFL 3. We don't have any UFC this week, but we do have PFL. And we've got a bunch of other promotions, ACA and whatnot. And I'll be breaking those down, not on video. I'll be doing my own tape, and then I'll be posting any bets I make on Twitter. As always, I am back to being free, so you can find all my bets on my Twitter. You can find all my bets in the Discord, the Couch Warrior Pod Discord. The link will be in the description of this video, and it's in my link tree and in my Twitter bio as well. We talk about fights nonstop pretty much. We got channels for every single regional promotion. And on top of that, I post my notes, my breakdowns, and my bets on there. So make sure to check that out. And yeah, let's hop into the card. We've got, I believe, 12 fights. A few fell off. We almost lost one. Staropoli missed weight by 4 pounds, but the fight is still on. And let's go through it. I've already got a bunch of plays. There's a few plays that I still might make or I might not. We don't know. I don't know. I'm getting distracted by my guy Steve here in the chat. And yeah, let's hop in. I'll talk to the chat real quick. We got Grateful Dude here. Thanks for breaking down these fights. Thank you for watching, brother. Definitely wanted to put something out. Steve over here, scared that I'm going to do a better job than him. Don't worry, Steve. At least I have bets on the card, unlike you. Why are you back to free? You already know why I'm back to free. It didn't work out with beer money picks. They didn't like how many people I was bringing. I wasn't bringing enough people to the Discord. So they did let me go. And, you know, it's all right. It happens. Anyone who's in my circle knows that I was not the happiest about doing paid content. So I'm glad to be back to what I was doing before. And hopefully we can do it even better. I am working on improvements for the Discord, trying to figure out how to make it better for everybody. And yeah, let's talk about some fights now. So first up, we've got Romain Debienne versus Tadjine. I'm just calling him Romain. Romain is 10-4-0. He's 5'10" with the 71-inch reach. Don't have his age up here, but I believe it's 27. Gene is 6-0 undefeated. He's 25, so he's going to be 2 years younger, 4 inches taller, and have a 5-inch reach advantage. Not really going to spend too much time on this one. I think it's Tadjine. I think it's Tadjine all day. Romain is okay. He's all right, but he kind of relies on his power. I don't really think his striking is too technical. His wrestling is decent, but nothing spectacular. And he's just, I don't think he's all that great of a fighter. I think Thad is really solid. I think he's a really solid prospect. I think he's got the potential to be really, really good. I like his range striking. I like his power. I like his takedown defense. Even his ground game offensively is pretty good too. And I just personally think he's got Romain covered here, unless Romain can bonk him, which is always a possibility in MMA. But I don't really think it's a possibility that's going to happen here at a high clip. I think that Thad is probably going to finish him. I'm thinking around the second or third round because Romain's cardio isn't very good. But I haven't really gotten to any bets here just because, you know, 2 and 3 makes sense, right? Tadjine 2, Tadjine 3, those make sense. I would have liked a little bit of a better price. They're like plus 450 and plus 700. And I just feel like I wouldn't be extremely shocked if Romain was able to survive and Thad ended up winning a decision similar to the Aliquin fight. But personally, I think the most likely outcome is Gene knockout, like I have here, round 2. I wanted to remove the predictions from Tapology, but I don't know how. And I usually don't make them before my shows, but I did it because I didn't want to miss it. And yeah, now you guys are going to get a little spoiler every time I scroll up, but it is what it is. And if you just go off my spoilers, then you're not going to get the full details because there's one pick here that I haven't changed on purpose, and I'm not really liking it anymore. Moving on, though. We've got Tyler Diamond versus Otto Rodrigues. Diamond 12-3-0. He's 33 years old, 5'7" at the 69-inch reach. Rodrigues 14-1-0. He's 36. He's 3 years older. He's 5'5". He's 2 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 5-inch reach disadvantage on paper. But I'm kind of calling BS. I was looking at the weigh-ins today, the ceremonial ones where they face off, and his reach looked longer than Diamond's, to me at least. My eye test, it seemed like he's got the reach advantage, not Diamond. And it certainly doesn't look like he's at a 5-inch reach disadvantage. I like Diamond here to win, and I might get to a bet. I don't know yet for sure. I kind of want a better price just because I don't fully trust Diamond. But honestly, like for me, it's Otto is a grappler, and that's all he's really got. His striking is pretty bad. I don't like his striking. And Diamond's not a fantastic striker, too. He's not like super technical with his boxing or anything like that. But I do think he's a better striker than Rodrigues. I think he's got more power on the feet, and I just like his striking better. And in terms of the grappling, Diamond's a pretty high-level grappler in his own right. He's a credentialed wrestler. He's a good offensive grappler. He's got good takedown defense. And I just don't really see Otto coming out here and doing something like Bulayev did, where he was able to really out-grapple him and submit him. I think Diamond's takedown defense will be good enough to keep it up on the feet most of the fight. Maybe he can sprinkle in his own takedowns. Do you want to do that with Rodrigues, who's got good jiu-jitsu? I mean, I just don't really see Otto submitting him from his back either. So how does Otto win? Just grinding out the decision, landing the takedowns. Is it possible? Sure. But the more I think about it, the more I tape it, the more I write in my notes about it, the more I feel like Tyler is the side, especially at plus money. I would have lined it pick'em personally. Otto is pretty inactive, and I just think that he's too one-dimensional. He's only got one real thing in his game, and that's the grappling. And I just don't think it's going to be necessarily enough. So I think the line is wide, and I think Tower Diamond at dog money is a decent play. Haven't gotten there myself, but I'm waiting out the line to see what happens, and we can move on. Hoping people parlay Rodrigues maybe tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Next up, we've got Don Madge versus Brennan Ward. Madge, he's 10-4-1. He's 33, 6 feet tall with a 72-inch reach. Ward, 17-7-0. He's 2 years older at 35. He's, let me do math, 2 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. So this is a weird fight for me. Madge is coming up from 155 to 170, and I didn't really know if he was going to fill out well. I thought he would probably be undersized, and this is the pick I was talking about, where I'm not confident in this pick that I wrote down here, and I'm probably going to change it at the end of the show to Don Madge by decision, because I think that's a likely outcome now that I've seen the physicality of him. He filled out really well, and it kind of reminded me of Uros Medic, who was a lightweight as well. He was a big one in the UFC, and he went up to welterweight, and he filled out really well, and now I think he's a real welterweight, and I feel the same way about Madge. From what I see, there's no flab on the guy. He's definitely not too skinny. He filled out thick. He's got the muscles. He's got everything. And he's a taller guy. So I don't necessarily know anymore if Ward's physicality is going to be a huge thing here. And going into the card, going into breaking it down, I felt like the physicality would be a big thing and he would be able to get takedowns. And, I still think Ward could possibly get takedowns. His wrestling is decent. And we have seen Madge get taken down. Most recent was the Nate Williams fight. He got taken down early. So I wouldn't be shocked if Ward can lock in those takedowns, at least early. And in the striking, Madge is definitely cleaner. No doubt about it. He's a cleaner striker, but he doesn't throw much. He really doesn't. He's happy to work from range. And a guy like Ward, he's not going to give you that range. He's going to keep closing the distance, trying to kill you. And I just feel like Madge might struggle a little bit with that. He's got good lateral movement. Might be a little hard for Ward to find him and back him up into the cage. But I do think Ward can do it. I think Ward has the power to chin Madge. We've seen it. We've seen it with Raush Manfield. And I just feel that Ward is a bit dangerous. So while my mind is telling me Madge decision makes sense, my gut is still telling me I feel like Ward might come out here and finish him. So I'm probably just going to stay off altogether. When I'm torn like that, where my brain and my gut are just disagreeing, it's probably better to just leave it alone. If the Ward line blows up and I get something like plus 200, I'll make a half unit play on that. I would do that. I think that would be way too wide. But right now at plus 150, I'm happy to wait and just see. And if I don't have a bet on this fight, I can live. I'll be okay. So the pick, I guess we're going to change it to Don Madge by decision. But again, I'm super torn there. I personally just would. If you're picking Madge, I wouldn't play him. He will have the cardio upside, and Ward is on short notice. Madge was supposed to have a different opponent originally. I believe it was Kyle Crutchmer. And before that, I think he was supposed to fight, what's his face? His name, Magomed Karamov. Yeah. And Ward already has bad cardio. And now we're putting him on short notice. I don't know how that's going to work out. So, yeah, we'll go with Don Madge by decision, but not confident in that pick at all. Let me catch up real quick. My guy Hadim in the chat. I always love to see you here, brother. Thanks for your support. My guy Glenbot, thank you for tuning in. What's up with you, brother? And Hadim leaning Madge, but ring rust might be a factor here. That's possible too. And even though I just said he did fill out well, it could still be possible that Ward will have a significant physicality advantage. We don't know yet. We're gonna have to see Madge at welterweight, but he's never done it. So Yeah, we can move on though. Next up, we've got Laureano Staropoli versus Murad Ramazanov. Staropoli 13-5-0, 31 years old. He's 6 feet tall with a 71-inch reach. Ramazanov 11-0, undefeated. He's 28, so he's 3 years younger. Going to be 1 inch shorter, which I think is incorrect. I saw the ceremonials, and he actually looked a few inches shorter than me. I was pretty surprised. And he's going to be at a 3-inch reach advantage. So Staropoli missed weight by 4 pounds. Being on the other side and betting on the grappler, I don't love it. I don't love it at all, but I think it's going to be okay. I think Ramazanov is a beast. I like him a lot. I think he's a real good fighter. I think he's got really good wrestling. His striking still leaves some to be desired, and it's definitely going to have to improve. But it's not like Staropoli is some insane striker that's just going to beat the crap out of him on the feet if Ramazanov isn't getting takedowns. And I do think he will get the takedowns. We've seen Staropoli get taken down plenty, especially in the UFC. Even Pickett was able to beat him with his grappling. And I don't see why Ramazanov can't come out here and just dominate the fight. Now, you can't really do much with a minus 800 at this point. I did parlay Ramazanov earlier when he was like minus 500. I put him in a few spots, but now it's not going to do anything for your parlays at all. So what you could do, my other plays, I played round 2 and round 3 for Ramazanov. I think it was like plus 525 for round 2, and it was like plus 750, I think, for round 3. And I do think he's going to finish. It's interesting that the under is actually plus money, and the fight ends inside the distance is also plus money because Ramazanov is a beast. But on paper, I get it. It's because Staropoli is pretty durable, and Ramazanov has plenty of decisions on his record. So I see why the bookie said it that way. But just looking at the matchup and how I think it plays out, I think Ramazanov is going to be beating on him from top, and I think he's going to get a TKO win. So I think that's going to happen in the second or third. And if you're going to play him, I think that's the way to do it at this point. Can he get a first round finish? Yeah, it's possible. But I think it's more likely that it'll come a little later because I do agree that Staropoli is pretty durable, and Ramazanov isn't necessarily a crazy knockout threat on the feet. Moving on, we've got Timur Khizriev versus Brett Johns. Khizriev 14-0, undefeated. He's 28 years old, 5'9". Let's call it a 69-inch reach. Johns 23-0. He's 32. He's 4 years older, 2 inches shorter, and he's also got a 69-inch reach. So at faceoffs, Johns definitely looked smaller, and he is coming up to 45 from bantamweight. And personally, I think Khizriev should take this. I went into this thinking the line doesn't make no sense just based off of memory because I think Johns is a great fighter, and seeing him at like plus 190, plus 200 was kind of crazy. But then once I did the tape, I was like, okay, I see it. Khizriev, I think he's real well-rounded. He's a guy who, you see the Russian, you see the Dagestan, you think, okay, wrestling, that's all he got. But he's actually a really impressive striker, in my opinion. I like a lot what he does. I really like the front kicks that he was using in his last few fights. And I think the hands are pretty good too. The output is a little questionable. And the cardio, it's hard to really get a good read, but he does seem to slow down in the third. So there's that. But I don't really know if Johns is going to be able to take advantage because is he going to be able to take down Khizriev even when Khizriev is tired? Maybe, but will it be enough in the third? Will he be able to sub him and get the finish if he's down on the scorecards? I don't really think so. On the feet, I like Khizriev a lot more, and I think Johns is really hittable. He might not have been knocked out yet in his pro career, but he didn't, right? I'm not tripping there. I'm pretty sure he didn't, but he has been knocked down. He got knocked down by Montel Jackson. I understand Jackson's a beast. He's got a lot of power, but he also got knocked down by Munoz 3 times when they fought. And I kind of feel like Khizriev is going to knock him out. That's kind of just the feeling I was getting watching the fights, watching their tape. And I decided to go with the Khizriev's knockout prop at plus 600. I put 0.2 units on that. I do think that's a live prop. And I did parlay him when he was like minus 270, I think. I put him together with someone we're going to talk about later on the card. But I like Khizriev. I think he can get the knockout here. It is weird betting against Johns at such a big price tag because, again, I do think Johns is a good mixed martial artist. But I think that the striking goes to Khizriev. I think the offensive grappling also goes to Khizriev. While Johns is a good wrestler, we've seen him out-grappled in his own right against guys who are better wrestlers than him. And I do think that Khizriev is a better wrestler. Road Squatch saying Johns is too tough, and I get it. But I just feel like I said, we've seen him hurt. He is super hittable. And Khizriev's got power, and he is a good striker, and I think his striking's still improving. So I personally think the knockout's pretty live, but if you if you don't like it, you don't got to play it. And there's other ways to go about it. If you think Johns is too durable, you could do Khizriev decision. I thought it was kind of a really steep price. It's like minus 140. So for me, it's Khizriev, and I'm gonna go with the knockout. And it is worth mentioning that at the end of the day, this is PFL, and they do incentivize like getting to the finish early, right? You get 6 points if you get around one finish, you get 5 in a round 2, 4 in a round 3 finish. So I do think that plays into it as well. So yeah, Khizriev's the pick, and we can move on. Next up, we've got Adam Borics versus Enrique Barzola. Borics is 18-2-0. He's 5'11" with a 70.5-inch reach, and he's 30 years old. Barzola 27-2. He's 34. He's 4 years older, 4 inches shorter, and he's gonna have the same reach. At ceremonials, Barzola looked a lot smaller than Borics, in my opinion, like a lot smaller. And it kind of just reinforced what I was already thinking. I think this is a Borics spot. I do think Borics should win. I'm hesitant to play him at minus 150. So if the price stays there or if it keeps climbing, I'm not going to touch it. But I did play round 2 and 3 for Borics as well. I'll explain that in a sec. So for me, Borics, he's just a much better striker. I think he's a really good striker. Barzola is really, really hittable. Barzola does have decent hands in the pocket. I'll give him that. And his pressure, his pressure is one of his main things, the pressure, the pace, and the grappling. That can make it difficult for Borics to really get off and be able to find his distance, find his range. But Borics is really dangerous up close too. He's dangerous in the clinch. He's got really good knees and elbows. And I really rate his takedown defense very highly. I like his takedown defense a lot. I like what I've seen. He's fought really good wrestlers like Aaron Pico. He fought Jeremy Kennedy and won that fight. And Kennedy is a really good wrestler, and he's much bigger than Barzola. And if he struggled to take down Borics, I struggle to see how easy it'll be for Barzola. I get why people are on him. I love betting on him. He's a similar fighter to me like Murad, in that it's just relentless pace and pressure and just nonstop takedowns. But I think Borics is the kind of guy who could stuff those takedowns, could make him pay on the feet. And the size really makes a difference for me too, because I was already thinking that way before seeing the size difference, and now seeing it and knowing that Barzola is coming up to 45. He has fought there before, but he's coming back up. So I think this is a Borics spot. I do like the round 2 and round 3, like I briefly mentioned. It's plus 1,000 and plus 1,500, I think. So I put 1/10 of a unit on each of those, 0.1 units on each spot. Barzola is really durable. He really is. But like I mentioned, he's really hittable too. And if Borics can utilize that clinch, land those knees every time Barzola gets in close, and then just let it rip at range, I do think the finish is live. So just a little sprinkle on the late finish props. And if somehow the money line comes down, if people play Barzola last second, I will get to a Borics bet. But at minus 150, I feel like it's about where it should be. So I don't really think there's too much value, and I'm going to leave it alone for now. So Borics is the pick, and we'll move on. Next up, we've got Bubba Jenkins versus Kai Kamaka III. Jenkins is 21-7-0. He's 36 years old, 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. Kamaka 12-5-1. He's 29. He's going to be 7 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and he's going to be at a 4-inch reach disadvantage. So I am on Jenkins. I played him at minus 115. I thought that was a pretty generous price. Now, minus 150, again, I feel like it's about accurate, so I wouldn't play it. But the way I see it is this. Kamaka is real good. He's young. He's still improving. He's got good takedown defense, good scrambling, good get-ups, and he's got good striking too. But I just think Jenkins is a different level of wrestler than something that Kamaka has faced so far. And I think that Jenkins will be able to get the wrestling going. I think he will be able to use his ground game. And I think he's going to be able to do enough to win the fight, probably by decision. On the feet, is Kamaka a much better striker? Yeah, he's a better striker, but I do think Bubba can hang with him. Bubba's striking has improved too, despite being on the older side of things. I'm not ready to call him washed by any means. Getting beat up by Pinedo, at this point, it's happened to a lot of guys, including a guy who's minus 500 on this card. So I don't really put that against him too much. Like Glenbot, I'm a little nervous. But at minus 115, you're giving me a really high-level wrestler who I think can still get it done. I'm going to play it. So, yeah, I like Jenkins here. I like Jenkins by decision, and we can move along. Next up, we've got a strange rematch. I'm not really sure why they decided to do it this way, but it is what it is. We've got Goiti Yamauchi versus Neiman Gracie. Goiti is 28, 6 and 0. He's 31 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. Gracie, 12, 4 and 0. He's going to be 4 years older. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and they're going to have the same reach. For me, I struggle to see how this fight is going to be different from the first one. I know they've both had fights since. Goiti just had the Michael Page loss where his leg just died and the fight was instantly over. But his fight prior to that was Gracie. Gracie had the Dante Shiro fight, and then the fight before that was Goiti as well. I just don't think much has changed. Like, Neiman is a decent offensive wrestler. He's a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, but his chin is high up in the air. He's extremely hittable. His striking has developed, and I think his striking is actually pretty decent. And there were times in the Goiti fight where I was not happy with what was happening, like in the right before the finish, when Gracie was just letting it rip with the jab. I was like, what the hell are you doing, Goiti? Goiti just moves his head down and just lets him keep doing it. But I do think he used it to set up that I believe it was an uppercut that ended up leading to the finish. He did use that to set it up, and it was actually really clean. I was impressed by Goiti's striking there. He's another guy who's a really high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, 21 submission wins. He's never been subbed himself, but his striking has developed a lot too. I think he's got a little bit more power too, and I think he's a bit more defensively responsible. And on top of that, I do think he can also get his own takedowns. I think he can defend the takedowns from Gracie, and I think he's a high-level jiu-jitsu guy, high enough where he can also stay safe from Gracie. Gracie's only got 2 subs by armbar, no other subs that you can do from bottom. And I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to do it here. Can he? Sure. He's, like I said, really high level jiu-jitsu. He's a Gracie after all. But I think Goiti should be able to win this fight, maybe by knockout again, maybe a decision. I went with a decision for my pick just because I couldn't really pick a round if the knockout does happen. And I don't think he's going to sub him, though. I do think it's either a knockout or a decision. And I do like Goiti. I'm sorry, I almost said Gaethje. I parlayed him up with Ramazanov when he was minus 225. Now he's, let's double check. Now he's minus 240, came back down. At one point, like yesterday, it went down quite a bit, but minus 240, I think it's still decent. I really do think he wins this fight, and I struggle to see how Gracie picks up the dub, unless it's a submission like my guy Hadim is saying over here. Moving on, though, we've got Gabriel Alves Braga versus Justin Gonzales. Braga is 12-1 and 0. He's 25 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. On the other side, we've got Gonzales, 14-3 and 0. He's 32, so he's going to be 7 years older. Same height, same reach. So pre-tape, I thought I'd like Gonzales as the underdog because I feel like Braga, I don't want to call him basic. He's just I don't have a word for it. It's just you kind of know what he's going to do every fight because it's always the same thing. Whereas I felt like Gonzales has that wrestling upside, and he's a pretty good striker too. And then I went into the tape, and then I started with Braga, and I was like, okay, never mind. This guy's real good, and his takedown defense is actually pretty good. He hasn't really fought too many high-level wrestlers. He did fight Wade, and I liked a lot what I saw in the Wade fight. His scrambling ability is really good. His get-ups are really good. His takedown defense is very solid, and I do think he's going to be able to stuff a lot of the takedowns coming from Gonzales. His striking is real clean. He's a bit flat-footed, which I don't love, and he can be a little bit low output, but he mixes it up really well. He goes to the body a lot. I like the front kicks to the body a ton, and I do think he's the cleaner striker. But I also think Gonzales' striking is pretty impressive. I like the jab a lot. I like the way he uses it to set up his combinations. He's not just a wrestler anymore, and I think he's a really good fighter. And I do think if he's coming out here and fighting smart, sprinkling that jab, mixing it up, and then shooting for the takedowns, I do think he's live to get the dub here, and I don't hate the underdog shot. And it's enough to get me off of Braga and not want to do something with him. But I do still think Braga probably wins. I think he probably wins by decision. If the line comes crashing down on Gonzales or something, I'll take my shot on Braga just because I do think he'll keep it on the feet. And on the feet, while I do think Gonzales is pretty good and I like a lot what he does, I like Braga's striking a lot better. So I think we're sticking with Braga by decision, but there's not going to be a play here from me more than likely. Let's see what we got real quick here. Talk me off of Braga bonk. I mean, I don't know if he's going to knock out Gonzales. I think Gonzales is pretty durable, and I don't really rate Braga's power all too much, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got the finish. I just don't think so. I think if Braga wins, it's probably by decision, and I do think he wins, so I think he's going to win by decision. Moving on, though, we've got Logan Storley versus Shamil Musayev. Storley's 15-2-0, 31 years old, 5'9" with a 71.5-inch reach. Musayev on the other side, he's 16-0, undefeated, 0-1, I guess. 30 years old, he's 1 year younger, 1 inch taller, and they're going to have the same reach. So that draw, it's in this Petrazak fight. And in that fight, he grabbed the fence in the first round, and immediately the ref took a point, which is probably how it should be because, you know, in the UFC, at least, we're seeing a lot of guys, you usually don't get a point taken on your first fence grab. I think most people realize they can probably grab the fence once, twice, sometimes even more than that without getting points docked. But he did get the point taken immediately, which is the right move, and it ended in a draw. So going into this fight, I wasn't really familiar with Musayev, and I saw the record. I was like, damn, undefeated Russian, and he's the underdog by like quite a bit. He was like plus 180 when I started taping the fight. And then when I taped him, I understood the line. I don't love this guy. His background's Wushu Sando, the same as Muslim Salikov in the UFC, and you can see it. Same thing. Extremely low output. When they throw the hands, they're good, but they're not really throwing a lot of hands. He uses a lot of kicks and a lot of spinning kicks, which if you watch my shows, you know I hate that shit. I hate spinning stuff. Sprinkled in, sometimes it's great, right? I mean, Max Holloway just used it to break Justin's nose in the first round, spinning kick to the face. But using it nonstop, I don't like it. And on top of that, you're fighting a grappler, a really high-level wrestler who can take advantage of that, catch your kicks, and take you down. So not a good look here. The low output, not a great look. He's going to be the cleaner striker, definitely the more technical striker, but he doesn't throw enough to use it. You know, if he was over here throwing high output, really utilizing the skills he has in the hands, we'd be having a completely different conversation, but he doesn't. You know, he really doesn't. And his takedown defense isn't that great. We don't have a ton of tape where he's getting taken down a lot, mostly because he fought just nonstop bums, except for like one guy on his record, Jurisic, who I wouldn't call a bum. But we have seen him taken down in the Petrazak fight. We saw him taken down in the Jurisic fight. And I do think a guy in Storley, who's a much better wrestler than either of those guys, I think he is going to get those takedowns. His striking, I don't love at all, but it's decent. It's serviceable. It's enough to set up the takedowns to the point where he's not just shooting with no setup whatsoever. I do think he can use some of his hands and set up the takedowns. And once he's on top, I struggle to see if Musayev can get back up. I mean, in the Petrazak fight, when he got taken down in the first round, right into full mount for Petrazak, and it just was not a good look. If Storley gets there, good luck. So for me, it's Storley. I think he's got good ground and pound too, so it won't just be a lay and pray. I do think he can actually cause damage and score on the ground because we know judges don't love lay and pray no more. But I do think that Storley should win this fight. I think he's the rightful favorite, and I do have him parlayed with Khizriev. That's the route I decided to go with those two. I put them together. It came out to plus 101. I put one unit on it and called it a day. Moving on, we've got our co-main event. We've got Brendan Loughnane versus Pedro Carvalho. Brendan is 27-5-0. He's 34 years old, 5'9" with 71-inch reach. Pedro, he's 13-8-0. He's 28, which really surprised me. He doesn't feel like a 28-year-old, but he is still relatively young. I mean, the guy's only 2 years older than me. And he's 5'11". He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have the same reach. So the only thing I will really say here is don't parlay Loughnane. Don't go hammering him. The line's too wide. I know he's been looking really good, and he's on a run for the most part, other than the Pinedo loss. But in a lot of his, I feel like he's very inconsistent. I feel like in a lot of his fights, he didn't show up looking great. Like the Ago Huskic fight, that was a fight where he should have ran through him, and he didn't. He didn't. There were moments where Ago actually looked good. And in the Ryoji Kudo fight, that was way too close. And he was like a heavy favorite. And Kudo is fine. He's not a bad fighter, but he's not top tier either, and it wasn't a great look. Loughnan's he's a real good striker. His takedown defense has come a long way. He was training with Russians. I don't think he's doing it no more, but he was at some point. His own offensive wrestling is okay, but I just feel like the line's a little crazy. How does he cover minus 500? Does he just spark Carvalho? Maybe, but I don't think so. I don't really think he's going to come out here and just kill him immediately. And in a fight that goes 15, I think it's going to be relatively close. I think Carvalho is a decent striker in his own right. I like when he goes to the body a lot. I think he's got good combos, and his ground game's okay too. He's not really a crazy wrestler, but I can see him maybe getting a takedown or two in this fight. So while I do think Loughnane wins, and I think it's probably by decision, I think the line is crazy. I think the line is really crazy, and I don't want to touch it at all. What I did do was when the over 1.5 was minus 180, I did parlay that with Ramazanov. Now it's getting a little wild, but I was very surprised that the bookies put it at 1.5 because why? Because Pico just finished Carvalho in the first round. That's a completely different matchup. Completely different matchup. I really don't think Loughnane's going to spark him in the first. I don't. So for me, it's Loughnane, but I think we're going to go over 1.5 at a decent clip. Like I would say a high clip. I really don't think we're going to go under 1.5 in this fight. So that's where I'm at, and we can move on to the main event. Next up, we've got Andrey Koreshkov versus Magomed Umalatov. Koreshkov, he's 27-4-0. He's 33 years old, 6'1" at the 76-inch reach. On the other side, Umalatov, 14-0, 32 years old. He's 1 year younger, going to be the same height, and he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. This was a hard fight for me, and I wasn't going to play it because the odds were like minus 140, 150 Umalatov. But when it dropped down to minus 128 after I was done with the tape, I said screw it, and I made the move. I played Umalatov to win 1 unit. The way I see it, I think Koreshkov is a bit more dangerous. I really like his striking, at least in the first round, before he starts to get a bit tired. I think his cardio is a bit questionable. I think that while he's a good wrestler in his own right, I think he's going to struggle to take down Umalatov, whereas I can see Umalatov taking him down at a pretty high clip, especially as the fight goes on. I know a lot of people are going to look at the Umalatov fight against Naib Lopez and be turned off by that. And I get it. But I mean, he had the man dead in the first round and he let it rip completely to get the finish. And we've seen people do that and then lose their gas tank. It makes sense. It happens. And he was still able to recover. And he came back in the third and he looked a lot better than he did in the second round, where Naib actually looked like he was coming back into the fight. So for me, I got to go with the guy who I think is fresher. I thought Umalatov was a lot younger than he is, but he's not. He's 32. But in terms of just damage taken, what I like to call fight years, what a lot of us call fight years, I think that Umalatov is a much the less damaged goods, I would say. I think at this point, Koreshkov has taken so much damage. He's been in a lot of wars. I just think he's starting to wind down his career. Whereas with Umalatov, I feel like he's only just getting started. So at minus 128, I was down to make the move. I think that the overs are interesting. I think Umalatov decision at decent plus money. I think it was like plus 200 when I looked. Let me check. Fight goes is plus 120. His decision is plus 265. I feel like that's a decent play, honestly. I like I said, I think he's going to win by decision. Can he get a late finish? Yeah, I don't think it'll be early. I think Koreshkov's a lot to deal with early, but I can see him getting a finish in the second or third round. But I think the most likely outcome is him by decision. So, maybe I'll even make a move on the decision prop. We'll see. Probably not. I don't want to have too much staked here because I do like Koreshkov in general. I think he's still a really good fighter. He's fought the much better competition. Umalatov fought really good guys in his amateur career, like Saigid Izakmaev, I believe is his name. And there were a few other guys off the top of my head that I just don't remember. Dennis Maher is another really good guy on there. He had a fight against Azamat Bakoev, who's another stud. He lost that one, but a lot of good guys on his amateur record. But once he went pro, you could tell his management either changed the way they were functioning because they started giving him not great competition. So I do think Umalatov is going to win. Not crazy about the spot, but I felt like it was a decent move at minus 128. Now at minus 159, I wouldn't play it at all. Minus 142 on FanDuel, I don't like it. At this point, if you're going to play it, maybe late props or the decision prop, because that's what I think happens. But yeah, that's the pick. Magomed Umalatov by decision. Hadim over here, Koreshkov is scary. He is very scary, especially in the first round. A lot of power, and the striking is very solid. And I really like the body shots, especially. But I think Umalatov is also a scary man and a clean striker in his own right. And that's it, guys. That's 12 fights. That's PFL 3. I'll run through my bets real quick for you guys, and then we can hop on out. There won't be any other video content from me this week, unlikely. But I will go over like on my own time. I'm gonna go look at the other regionals, and if I have any bets, anything I like, as always, I'll post it on my Twitter at Couch Warrior Pod, all for free, and I'll post it on my Discord. And on the Discord, you'll get notes, breakdowns, all that good stuff, and you can talk to me about the fights. The Discord is also free, and I'll put the link in the description of the video. So yeah, let's go over the bets. We've got Umalatov minus 128 to win 1 unit. We got Jenkins minus 115 to win 1 unit. We've got Ramazanov and Loughnane Carvalho over 1.5, minus 119 to win 1 unit. That was when Ramazanov was not minus 800, just putting that out there. Then we have Goiti and Ramazanov parlayed at minus 141 to win 1 unit. We've got Khizriev parlayed plus 101, 1 unit staked. We've got Khizriev KO plus 600, 0.2 units. We've got Borics round 2 plus 1,000.1 units. We've got Borics round 3 plus 1,500.1 unit. And then we've got Ramazanov wins in round 2 plus 525 for a quarter unit. And we've got Ramazanov wins in round 3 plus 725 for a quarter unit. And that's it, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Good luck this weekend, and peace out.